Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today another video. Yeah, what else is new, Unky Joe? You always do videos. Isn't that what the whole purpose of the channel is, to do videos? Yeah. Okay, well, in our previous video, well, the one previous to this previous video, because in the previous video I talked about office reorganization, but the one right before that is the one where I showed you how to create Hyper-V images, a Windows 7, a Windows 10. In this episode, we're going to show you how to then import and export those images and how to save them onto a network location or onto external storage, and how to then import those machines and create your lab units with them. So, buckle up, buttercups. We're going to get this video started right now. So here's the setup of our servers here. So we have MCS-DC01. It's a white box or a vanilla PC. It's got a Core i5, 16 gig RAM. It's got two 1 terabyte spinning drives in there. One is a boot drive and one is a data drive that handles our Active Directory, DNS, DHCP, group policy, and also hosts our Blue Iris surveillance software. The next one is the the first Dell R710 I got. It's called MCS Production. It has two Xeon 5640 processors with 40 gig RAM, two 136 terabyte or gigabyte SAS spinning drives, and four 2 terabyte serial ATA drives managed with Drive Bender. And that also that is our virtualization server production. Our mail servers housed there. Most of our virtual machines that we run our day-to-day operations on are hosted there, etc. And it also is currently our Plex media server. The next server is the MCS Lab server. It's another Dell R710, one that was donated. It has two Xeon 5670 processors, 48 gig RAM, 236 gigabyte spinning SAS drives, and one SanDisk 1 terabyte SSD drive for our virtual machine storage. This is our primary lab unit. Then we have the good old IBM 3650M3 server. It's MCS IBM Lab. It has two Xeon 5620 processors, 48 gig of RAM, and two spinning SAS drives, and there are two in RAID 1. And then a 1 terabyte SSD drive for VM storage. That's our other lab server. And then we have our NAS, MCS NAS, which is Synology DS918. It has two 4 terabyte hard drives, two 6 terabyte hard drives, and I believe it has 4 gig of RAM in there. And we do our iSCSI, NFS, and CIFS shares on there. We have some other applications hosted on there. Now, if you remember on our Hyper-V virtual machine creation video, we created a couple of we created a Windows 7 and a Windows 10 images, and then we sysprep them on the IBM. And that's those two units here, the Windows 10 Pro and the Windows 7 Ultimate Gold images. But the one image we didn't do, which I failed to include, was a server image. So you can also sysprep Windows Server 2016. So if you're doing lab environments or setting up demos or that kind of thing, that could come in handy. I'm going to specifically show you how to do Server 2016, how to create an image with that and sysprep it. I'm not going to show you Windows Server 2012. I don't think a lot of people are using that, especially not in lab environments now that Server 2019 is out. So first things first, what we need to do is we need to go to our, see if I have a drive mapped. No, I don't. What we need to do first is go to the network and go to our NAS unit. We need to copy an ISO folder or an ISO file over. So we'll go to the NAS, we'll go to Applications, seems to be running a little slow today. And then I have a folder called Microsoft Partner Downloads where I keep all my files. And then in here I have my Server 2016, and it looks like my most recent one is this one right here, Win Server Standard Core. So I'm going to copy this file and I'm going to put it on my C drive over here under my ISO folder. I'll go ahead and paste that Alright, we have the Windows Server. Now I can get rid of these other... I don't need the Windows 7, nor do I need the Windows 10 ISOs, and so I'm going to delete those. And I'm also going to delete the offline update ISO for Windows 7. I am going to keep the one for Windows 10 because it also works remarkably well with Windows Server 2016. So, close that out. We've got our ISO where we need it now. Let's go create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to do a new virtual machine. Click on Next. And we're going to call this Server 2016 Gold. Click on Next. It's going to be a Gen 2. We use that for Windows 10 and above. We're going to give it, we'll give it 4 gig of RAM. Be gracious with this one. We're going to connect it to our gigabit network card or virtual network adapter. And we'll go ahead and give it a, let's just give it an 80 gigabyte hard drive. That should be plenty. And we'll install an operating system later. Go ahead and click on Finish. Alright. Now I'm going to, after I've created that virtual machine, I'm going to go right click, go to Settings. I want to give this 4 cores. Just to be generous, apply that. I'm also going to attach a DVD drive, which will have the image file. So we'll go to our ISO folder, connect our ISO, apply that. And the next thing we want to do is take off Secure Boot, apply that. And then I'm going to come here for our boot and move our DVD-ROM up to the top. And it looks like everything else is where it should be. Alright. So now we'll double click on it to connect. And we'll go ahead and power it on and we'll start the install. Oh, I wasn't fast enough. I gotta hit the enter key or the space bar to boot off the DVD-ROM drive. Now I'm going to go ahead and we'll do an install of Server 2016, a standard install. And then we're going to sysprep it. That's the goal anyway. And trying to rain here today. Man, I got to tell you, you know, you saw my previous video was on the how we redid the office, and I'm really happy with it the way it turned out. Alright, so we're going to choose Windows Server Standard with the desktop experience x64. Click on Next. Accept the license terms. Click on Next. We're going to do a custom install to the 80 gig hard drive. Click on Next. And we'll go ahead and let the install run. Alright, so now we're rebooting. That took all of about 5 minutes to get that installed. If you hear any tap, tap, tapping, it seems the wind has decided to start blowing. Now, I am not, as you can see, it's getting darker in here. We got some weather coming through. What I am not going to do is apply the updates. I'm going to get Windows Server 2016 installed, go through the basic configuration, and then I'm going to sysprep it, because I don't know that. You remember if you update from a previous version of Windows 10, like 1709 to 1803, and then try to sysprep, you're going to have some issues with it because Microsoft adds a bunch of stuff to it and prevents it from being sysprepped properly. You have to remove a bunch of apps. I don't think I'm going to have that problem with Windows Server 2016, but you never know. And it's a trivial thing to do Windows Server updates after Windows Server is installed from a gold image. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm going to go ahead and type in my super secret password here. Click on Finish. And then I should be presented with a desktop here. Once I log back in. And yeah, I'll go ahead and join my network. Now, what should happen is a server manager should come up here shortly. Yes, I'd have won that bet, wouldn't I? So we're going to go here to local server. Now the first thing I'm going to do is set it for the correct time zone, because right now it's set for Pacific. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to Central Time and click on OK. And now this thing is ready to sysprep. Now what I've done is I've run the program. I've gone out to the start or to the Windows button and I typed in WINVER, and you can see this is Windows Server is on version 1607, build 14.393.884. I'm torn as to whether to go ahead and do updates on this or to sysprep it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the best of both worlds. I'm going to go ahead and sysprep this image as is. And then what we'll do is we'll make a copy of this sysprepped image. We will then apply the updates to the copy of that image and try to sysprep the image with the updates. Best of both worlds. So let's go ahead and get it sysprepped. So I'm going to go to Windows Explorer. I'm going to go to my C drive, Windows, System 32, and hopefully they've kept the sysprep folder out here. I believe they have. Yes, they have. Sysprep, double click on it. I'm going to enter the out-of-box experience. I want to generalize the operating system, and I want it to shut down. So, fingers crossed. Let's click OK. Alright, so there we go. Sysprep is now finished. It should shut down the machine. And it did. So now, let's go ahead and close that window. Let's right click and go to settings on our Server 2012 Gold. Unit sysprep as 1607 Windows 2016 Server. Do not run this image. Only make copies. Go ahead and apply that. And then the next thing I'm also going to do, hopefully I won't screw things up, is I'm going to right click and I'm going to take a checkpoint. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this image, and then we'll boot it up and we'll see if it works. So while I have a captive audience here, you can see it's raining cats and dogs outside. So this would be a good chance to see how that Reolink camera works in the rain. Because it seems like every time I have a thunderstorm or rainstorm come through here, the next day the Reolink camera wants to reset itself to defaults. And it is pouring outside right now. I'll show you the radar here. I'll bring that up just so you can see. We're right about right here, and this is the cell that's coming toward us. So yeah, it's fun. Rain is fun. We need the rain. I love the rain. I love it in the fall. And we get these little brief, heavy thunderstorms that come through here and dump a ton of rain on us. But there generally no twisters or anything in them. But I may have to pause the video here until the storm passes. I've got the dogs in here because they always like to freak out when it rains. So I just thought I'd share that with you. You can see the water's already pooling out there, and yeah. I'm glad I have these cameras. I can watch the rain from inside the house where it's nice and dry. So anyway, we'll come back to the video when the storm lets up a bit. Now, one thing we did not cover in the previous video about after you create your sysprepped images, you need to do what's called an export. You need to export them to a location that you have read-write capabilities to. And I mean full control of the share, whatever share you're copying it to. I've already created a share out on my Synology NAS. It's called Veeam Backup. So now that I've got my gold master images, what I need to do is right click on them and export them. And I'm going to go ahead and browse. I'm going to go to my NAS. So right here you can see I'm on my MCS NAS Veeam Backups Exports folder. And that's the folder I'm going to select to create this export to. And then you simply click on the export button. Now, depending on the speed of your NAS and your network and the size of the file you're exporting, this could take a few minutes. So we'll let this run. Now, that took a very short amount of time for me, but I need to do the same thing. I've already done it with my Windows 7 Ultimate Gold. I need to now export my Windows 10 Pro Gold. So we right click on it and we choose export. Go ahead, we're going to browse to that same location, and you'll see it's selected the correct folder, exports. We'll select it, go ahead and click on export, let it run. Depending on the size of the virtual machine and the speed of your network, it could take a little time. So while the export is running, this is also the benefit of having a centralized storage, a NAS, like I have the Synology. That's where I'm exporting these files to. So I tend to keep my machines, my Windows Server machines, with a boot drive and then a SSD to load the virtual machines onto. And then all my real storage is on my NAS. That's where I do create all my exported files and keep my backups and keep all my install files, etc. And I just think it's a good way to do it. If you have a gigabit connection or better to in your network, you should have good results with that. It also gives you the ability to run, if you want to run a virtual machine off of an SSD, you can do it. Or if you want to run it off an iSCSI share, which is what I do with some of my virtual machines off my Synology NAS, it is more than capable of handling that. So the exports are complete. We have now safely moved all of these gold images onto our NAS, and now the next step is to delete all these images. One of the downfalls, or one of the pitfalls of using Hyper-V, one of the few ones, is that unlike Zen Server or ESXi, they don't have within the basic hypervisor a way to clone a virtual machine. You have to create it, you have to export it to other location, delete your original files off your Hyper-V server, and then import them so that everything can be set up properly. Now, if you have the more advanced tools that Microsoft offers, which I just don't have a need to use right now, that may be something for an upcoming video, this is the procedure you have to go through. Now, one of the problems is, though, even if I come up here, I right click and I choose to delete that virtual machine, tell it to delete, it's not actually gone. Well, the machine file is gone. I'll show you. Delete it and delete it. So it's gone, right? But if you come back here to File Explorer and you go to my SSD drive, go under Hyper-V, you'll see the virtual machines are gone. But if you go into the VHD folder, you'll see the VHD files are still there. I have yet to figure out how to tell Hyper-V to delete the virtual hard drive files as well, but I just go ahead and come back out here, manually select them, and then choose delete. And then if you want, you can come out and empty your recycle bin just to make sure they're gone. Now, to get a virtual machine back, it's real simple. This is why we create gold images. So now to get that machine back and to get it out of sysprep mode, I'm going to simply come here to import virtual machine. A little wizard will come up and ask me where the file is located. So we browse out to our NAS, go to our Veeam Backups folder, go to our Exports folder, and that's the unit we want right here. I just double click to select the folder. Click on Next. It tells me it's Server 2016 Gold, created 9/20 at 3:16. Click on Next. This is very important. Make sure you copy the virtual machine. That way it creates a new unique ID. Never want to register or restore unless there are certain circumstances where you would want to restore, but not in this case. What we want to do is copy. It's similar to cloning the machine, because it'll copy the virtual machine, but it'll create a new ID for it. So click on Next. And it's going to ask us where to store the virtual machine. Now, we already have told it to store everything under Hyper-V on the D drive. The D drive, let's just come out here and verify, the D drive is our SSD drive. So that looks good. Go ahead and click on Next. And it asks where the virtual hard disk is going to be put. That's under VHD, because earlier we came up here and on our Hyper-V machine settings, this is where we told our virtual hard drives to be stored. That's why it's choosing that location. So we'll click on next. And just verify. Here's your summary up here. Verify everything is correct. It all looks good. Click on finish. And then it'll start importing the file. We have a successful import of our virtual machine. So now we can go ahead and right click on it, connect. Now what we want to do is go ahead and boot it up. So we're going to click on the start button, and it's going to come up in the out-of-box experience mode, and it's going to run us through an initial configuration. And then after we do that, then we're going to run the updates on this server, and then we're going to try to sysprep it again with all the updates and create a new image out of it. And we'll give it a different name than this one, but for now this is what we're going to use. So you can see it's going through its initial preparation phase, or as I like to call it, the preparation H phase. Yeah, I know. That was my attempt at humor. Alright, so you can see here's our out-of-box setup. So it's asking us our location. Click on next. We need to accept the license terms. We're going to enter our super secret password. And then we should come up to a working Windows Server 2016 image. Voila. And it sees our network, so we'll go ahead and let it attach. Now at this point it's just a standalone server, just like if it were a workstation. It is going to bring up Server Manager, but we're not going to need that. So once it brings up Server Manager, I'll go ahead and close it. Now what I want to do next is run my WSUS offline updater. Now I've already run that program and downloaded all the updates. I believe I ran that at the beginning of September. And you can use the same image that you use for Windows 10 can be used for Windows Server 2016 because they are in effect the exact same kernel. So what I need to do is go up here to Media, DVD drive. I want to eject my Windows Server install DVD. It should be ejected now. Go back up to Media, and I'm going to insert a disk. Now, remember we saved these files to our C drive under the ISO folder. And the one I want to mount now is the ISO file that I created with the offline updater program. Click on Open. Windows will mount it. Then we'll click on it and we're going to run it. And we're going to click on Start, and we're going to run this until this program tells us there are no more updates. Then after we run this program and it's completed, then we will run Windows Update under Server 2016 and get the other updates that have occurred since we did this one. So let me go see when I downloaded or when I created this file. Go to the ISO, and that was created on September the 6th is when I created that file, so it should have quite most of the updates in there. Now this could take a short amount of time, it could take a long amount of time. It just depends on where you are with your particular updates. We interrupt this video for a special notification. This video is running too damn long, so I'm going to end this video here. This will be a two-parter. I'll release the next part. I'll release the next part of the video in the next few days. I just didn't want it to get too long in the tooth. It's already up to 23 minutes, so I don't like to keep my audience captive for that long. So we'll return with part 2 of this in a couple of days. So thanks again for watching. We do appreciate it. Click that like button down below. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal, we take Patreon. Just want to tell y'all I appreciate all of y'all's patronage, whether you're a subscriber or not. We appreciate you coming and clicking and enjoying our videos, and hopefully you're getting something out of this lab series. So don't forget, folks, come back and see us again, and that we will see you on the other side.